Hey Braveheart Men, this is Nicholas for our Man Talk Monday. Today I want to actually delve into the topic of what it looks like to direct our thoughts and emotions. Every morning I get up, I have a regular morning routine that typically looks like first light. I get outside. There's a guy I really respect by the name of Gary Brecka. He talks about the importance of getting outside at first light, getting that vitamin D, how it has like this health effect on our immunity, our testosterone levels even. So it starts with first light. And then I actually go into breath work. He talks about breath work and how that's important. But for what I want to cover today, as far as discussing what it looks like to direct our thoughts and emotions, another piece of my morning routine is going into a gratitude exercise to start the day with gratitude. Because a lot of us may not know that the emotions, human emotions, cannot coexist as far as gratitude and, say, fear and anger. They cannot coexist at the same time. And so I want to start my day off right. I want to set it on the right course. And how I go about doing that is when I'm sitting outside, catching that first sight, that first light, that first sun, I will put myself in a place of relaxation after doing some breath work. It kind of resets the nervous system, puts myself in a place of being ready to focus on what's in front of me. And I'll actually do a gratitude exercise. And so I want to explain a little bit about that and what that looks like. As I'm sitting there, I will close my eyes, kind of open my palms up, just being in a relaxed receiving state. And I'll actually think about, in my mind, I'll think about a time that brought me joy, or I felt a sense of pride and accomplishment from something that I did. Just something that makes me come alive, that makes my heart happy, it makes my heart joyful to think about. And I'll spend 4 or 5 minutes just thinking about a past experience or a past memory or a past accomplishment that sets my heart into a place of gratitude. Maybe it's something that God has blessed me with in my life. Maybe it's something that I'm particularly appreciative of or thankful for in my life right now. But I'll just spend some time in that space because I recognize, and even secular psychology agrees with this, that the emotions of joy and gratitude cannot coexist with anger or fear at the same time. And so I know that if I'm starting my day in a place of gratitude, thankfulness, joy, it actually sets me up for the rest of the day. I'm not all of a sudden operating out of these negative emotions that are now almost filtering or clouding my interactions or the rest of my day or what I actually have in front of me. And so that's part of how I direct my thoughts and emotions, is that I put myself in a place where I'm focusing on the gratitude and the joy, and it actually sets me up for the rest of the day. So some of us can be in life, we can think about things where, maybe you've got something that's creating severe fear or severe anxiety or stress or worry for you right now. Maybe it's a financial situation, maybe it's, a relational conflict, maybe it's worry or stress with something with your job. And so those things are always going to be battling what we're facing, what's coming up in our lives. And the only way to escape out of that or to shift out of that is to go back into an emotion that it cannot coexist in the midst of. And so, of course, we all have things that we come across day in, day out that bring us anger or frustration or stress or worry. But when I put myself in that exercise or that place of gratitude, I know that those things can't coexist. And so it shifts out of the anger or the fear into a place of joy or gratitude. And it's not inauthentic. It's just recognizing, hey, I don't want to live my day. I don't want to experience the rest of my day out of a place of fear or anxiety or worry or stress. And so that's where I start with it. So another way that we can shift out of those negative emotions that can cloud our day or cloud our interactions with people or even just ride us is through scripture. So I want to give you a verse that I think is really powerful and empowers me when I think about directing my thoughts and emotions into the right way. So Proverbs chapter 4, verses 21 through 23, and this is God speaking to us. It says this: "Fill your thoughts with my words until they penetrate deep into your spirit. Then as you unwrap my words, they will impart true life and radiant health into the very core of your being. So above all, guard the affections of your heart, for they affect all that you are." And so just to reiterate the beginning of that, he says, fill your thoughts with my words until they penetrate deep into your spirit. And so it's that place of gratitude, that place of thankfulness that shifts out of negative emotions, but at the same time How do we extinguish that when they come up outside of that? It's also through the word. It's also through scripture. Fill your thoughts with my words until they penetrate deep into your spirit, is what God is saying to us. So that's another huge tool that we can use to shift out of those things. So in the subject of trying to direct or our thoughts or our emotions, what's important to know, and this is interesting, is even secular psychology would agree that what we focus on, we become, or what we behold, we become, even if it's something that we've been trying to avoid. If we're focused on the thing we're trying to avoid, it'll still show up in our lives. And so a perfect example I would give you is, have you ever replayed a conflict in your mind? Like, let's say it's a recent conflict, it was a fight or a blow up that you had. When you go back and replay that conflict in your mind, what you would find is that your emotions, those same emotions that came up in that conflict, will find themselves front and center for you. I don't know if it's just me, I've had even thoughts I've had of conversations that never took place, like conflict that I thought I would wind up in. All of a sudden, my emotions, my anxiety, my stress, my anger, my fear would come to the forefront because I am actually thinking on a conflict that I had, or even a conflict that hasn't happened that in my mind I'm playing out. So it's interesting that even secular psychology would say what we focus on, we become. And our thoughts lead our emotions. So if that's true, we have to do a great job as men of directing our thoughts and then recognizing that our emotions flow from that. So what does it look like to continue directing our thoughts, or to be aware? So I talked about the exercise of gratitude. I talked about scripture, how when we fill our lives or our thoughts with God's scripture, it affects the depths of us. The other thing is, there's a verse in Proverbs 23:7. It says, "As a man thinks in his heart, so is he." And here's a really interesting story that I'll share with you. There's a book about it. I don't think there's a movie. It would make a great movie if there was. But this is an actual true story where someone was murdered, and they were actually a heart donor. The person was murdered, they passed away, and their heart was donated or transplanted into someone else. And the person that received the heart transplant actually started having visions of the murder. They actually started having visions of the murderer killing the person they received the heart transplant from. It was so vivid, and the person that received the heart transplant could describe it in such detail. It was taken to court. They found the murderer. He was tried, tested, and convicted. This is a true story. And so, at times science has said, oh, the heart is just this thing that pumps blood to the rest of the body. But God knows and Scripture knows that there's so much more going on with the heart. Scripture says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. So the heart isn't just this pump, it actually holds memory. It actually holds so much more than we think is going on. And so as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. So we direct our thoughts, we direct our emotions. The last thing I want to give you is Psalms 51:10. It says, "Keep creating in me a clean heart. Fill me with pure thoughts and holy desires, ready to please you." So really what I want to give you guys this week is, as we think about how we take our thoughts captive or how we direct our thoughts, it flows into the depths of who we are. It flows into our emotions that can skew negative and actually drive us into further negative interaction, further negative emotion. But if we start our day with saying, God, would you direct my thoughts? Would you direct my emotions? Would you fill me with your scripture and your word in a way that sets it on the right course? And then it sets, therefore, my posture, my heart posture, my mindset, my interactions with everyone else for the rest of the day. A day turns into a week turns into a month, that turns into a habit. And what you can find out as you move forward is that we are growing incrementally in our thought process and our emotions and how our lives are being directed. Because it starts in our thoughts, it trickles down to our emotions, and then that trickles down into everything else. How we pursue our goals, how we pursue our careers, our interactions with people, our relationships, all of it. So I just want to encourage you guys that today, and recognize how powerful our thoughts are. Recognize how powerful those thoughts actually how powerfully they trickle into everything else. And if we can start there and we can be mindful and even masterful of how we direct our thoughts, watch how it changes our world, watch how it changes our lives, because it can literally transform what actually happens in the world around us. So I bless you guys with that. I encourage you, and thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch. If you guys would like, subscribe, comment below, visit our channel, sign up for the email so you get to become aware of everything that we're doing, all the events that we host and we have. And just want to say thank you guys for taking the time to watch today. Bless you.